The Denver Broncos closing in on a new inside linebacker. And speaking of inside linebacker, who's your all-time favorite Denver Bronco inside linebacker? I'm going to have to go with Al Wilson, first Broncos team I fell in love with. Just absolutely laid the wood, hard hitter. Loved his leadership and his play style. But let me know in the comments who was your favorite. We get good NFL draft news, some cut candidates for the Denver Broncos, and also some good free agency news because of the salary cap. We're going to dive into all that and more in this video. Let's dive in. So Cody Rorick, who does the Locked On Broncos every day with Sarah Bettinger, awesome article here on milehighsports.com where he goes into all the cut candidates for the Denver Broncos. Obviously, none of us are surprised to see Javonte Williams' name on that list, but we have heard through Sean Payton's interview with Kay Adams and through basically what Vance Joseph talked about being this team's Achilles heel towards the end of the season, that inside linebacker position is something we definitely need to shore up. It was the biggest question mark going into this season, and then Alex Singleton tears his ACL halfway through. Cody Barton stepped up and played better than a lot of us had thought he would play. Every Seahawks fan in my life and Bears fan in my life was like, hey, Cody Barton's not going to be good, and he was able to step up and be good, but we know we need more out of that position. And so we've heard so many people talk about Zach Bond coming to the Denver Broncos because of his connection with Sean Payton. But I think after being up for Defensive Player of the Year and the fact that he just had an incredible standout year, that he is going to take the bag in a way that is just going to put him truly off of the map for us. Right now, I think Singleton's on a 3-year, $18 million deal, and all of the predictions out there say Zach Bond would make more in 1 year than Singleton is making in all three, that you're probably talking about a 4-year, $55 million deal for Zach Bond. So what could other options be? Well, what if one of our options also weakens our biggest opponent, and that could be a phenomenal thing. And that's exactly what the insider at ESPN came out and predicted. So here is a awesome article through ESPN Plus that kind of goes through and talks about the top free agents and where they're going to end up, most likely, according to his sources. Unfortunately, he has Chris Godwin going back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which I don't love. But the thing I did like on here was seeing that he actually has us signing 2 of the top 50 free agent candidates, stealing one of them from the aforementioned Kansas City Chiefs. He talks about how Nick Bolton would be a perfect fit for this. He would cost a whole lot less than it would cost to go ahead and give to get Zach Bond here, so that could be a great thing. And I love anything that we do that makes the Kansas City Chiefs weaker. We know they are going to have a tough task ahead of them. You hear time and time again about the emotional toll that losing a Super Bowl takes on a team. Deebo Samuel even came out and talked about, like, part of the reason their season was so bad this season is that, like, he went 0 dark 30 and was in a deep depression, and then it's like 3 weeks later, you're already back in training for the next season. And he's like, you felt like you were more depressed than ever, and then the season starts right away. We've already seen Patrick Mahomes getting a haircut, and it's like, man, his identity was ruined in that game. So I would love if the Broncos were able to make this move for Bolton. I think as the Broncos are trying to overturn and rebuild this puzzle again, that's how Sean Payton talks about building this team up again. He said it's like every offseason you put the puzzle back upside down, and then you're rebuilding it and flipping over every piece. And by that, he means you're flipping over the draft, and you're flipping over free agency, and you're flipping over trades. I think when the Broncos are trying to build up the inside of this team, which is what Sean said they need to do, that the inside linebacker position is one that you don't use high draft capital. Even a Zach Bond was a 3rd-round draft pick. Looking at dudes like Matt Milano, a late draft pick. You don't draft linebackers that high. I think since 2018, you've only had 1 or 2 linebackers drafted in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. Maybe it's just the first round of the NFL draft. But I think you're most likely to find a productive inside linebacker through free agency or through trades, and then get an explosive playmaker like a running back or a tight end, because we've seen guys like Jahmyr Gibbs and Brock Bowers show that a tight end and a running back can hit the ground running their first year, whereas a defensive player, it's a longer on-ramp. And frankly, playing inside linebacker in college is a completely different game with how those hash marks are set up. It's not comparing apples to apples. So I love the fact that the Broncos would build and find their new inside linebacker through making their biggest opponent weaker. Other person he had us getting on here, which I thought was interesting, and I'd love all y'all's opinion on, is having Aaron Jones, the running back who I thought it was crazy that he even left Green Bay. I remember watching Green Bay-Dallas game, and it felt like he was getting 5 yards a carry and looked incredible. So I couldn't believe he left. And even this year with subpar quarterback play, he was able to take that Vikings team to 14-3. So this could be a huge upgrade if what Cody Rourke is predicting. Javante's gone. Could he step in? Other big free agent acquisition that you're hearing is maybe Najee Harris to the Broncos if we choose to try to get a thumper, if Sean Payton really indeed is past Audric Estime and doesn't want him. Either way, I'm feeling wildly confident about what the Broncos are going to do in the draft just because of how well they have done. We showed a stat the other day that the Broncos have one of the higher percentages of first and second rounders still on this team. And taking a look at how our first round of the NFL draft scored out last year, you were giving the Denver Broncos an A+ for their pick of Bo Nix. So that pick that everyone was laughing about, you're now having national media be like, yeah, that was an absolute incredible pick, even on par with Brock Bowers, who's setting NFL records as a rookie. And just putting it kind of in some context here, you were just seeing that Bo Nix's season was so good this year that even Bo Nix's season, where he played two really tough defenses right off the bat and had pretty rough games against Pittsburgh and Seattle those first couple weeks, you were still saying that if you took Bo Nix and put him on the Chicago Bears, it would have been their third best season of all time, and his passing touchdown would have been tied for the best quarterback play that Chicago has ever seen. And so we've just been spoiled. I think Jaden Daniels has reset and broke all of our brains. We have to remember that Bo Nix would have been the third best quarterback the city of Chicago has ever seen, and we know they're one of the oldest franchises in the entire NFL. Other good news that we're getting about the NFL draft is that there are more and more rumors that it's looking like you could have 3 quarterbacks drafted in the first round, and we know that there's runs on quarterbacks. And so with us at 20, anytime a team is reaching to get a position we don't need, that means a better player is falling to us at 20. So there's a lot of talk out there that Jackson Dart is rising up draft boards and that teams are going to make a run at him. And so if you have Ward, Shedeur, and him all going, we're not going to draft a quarterback in this draft, which means already at 20, we're guaranteed to get the 17th best guy in this draft because quarterbacks should not be jumping a bunch of those. And so we're thinking any position that we are locked down and have really solid that goes above us, we got to be hooting and hollering and excited because, anytime a cornerback goes off, we're like, yes, we don't need a cornerback. We got the best in the game. We don't need a quarterback. We don't need a left or a right tackle right now because we're set there. So any time a position goes off that we don't need, we got to be excited about. And I think that is absolutely fantastic news. And then the last piece of good news here before we end it off here is that it is looking like the salary cap is just going to continue to grow. And so we've been very blessed that as we are eating all of this Russell Wilson dead cap hit, the salary cap has drastically increased more than projected even. And a lot of that is due to stuff like YouTube TV and the fact that way more people pay for that upgraded plan to get all of the games. That's going straight to the salary cap. And now it's looking like Netflix is able to get the NFL and is now trying to bid on owning streaming rights for those games, which had been exclusively owned by CBS and Fox. So all of this kind of stuff is just going to drive the salary cap up, meaning the Broncos are going to be able to make runs for guys like Nick Bolton, Zach Bond, whoever they choose to do there. Either way, guys, it is great news for the draft. We got great news for free agency. This is the time we are, we are 40-1 odds to win the Super Bowl next year. This time last year, we still had Russell Wilson on our team, and it was like 1 in 150 odds to win it. So we are back. It is great to be back, and we've got a ton to believe in.